Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you to say hi. This is my design implementation and or non-hardware specified kind of video. I try to do something on hardware on one, at least one, and then I try to do something more on concepts or guidelines or recommendations, and that's what we're going to talk about here today about his recommendations. On the computer form environments out there for YouTube and several others, I've kind of noticed a trend out there where people are kind of asking the question, I want to buy a computer, but I want to buy a computer on the principles of what I need. How do I know what I need? That's what we're going to talk about right now. Most of you are IT professionals, but you have the same quagmire as generic users do. And that is you have an interest, may it be in coding and scripting, or may it be in tiered infrastructure and network connectivity, or may it be into design implementation for like VMs, Docker, and so on. And really, the truth of the matter is, they are actually different. And so let's take them first by identifying the very first thing you should do. Get a pencil, get a paper, write down on this piece of paper what do you must have? What do you think you need? What would you like to have? And what is fun? That's right, just like I said it. The need, the consideration, the want, and then some playtime. Why? Because if you write down on paper exactly what you want to do in regards to what you're trying to accomplish, it's important because these will qualify for what kind of resources you're going to need. So, for instance, let's say you're a code writer. Well, uh, you write down the information and the different tools and resources and so on that you run this with. Now, you don't need a very complicated device, probably be more of a baseline device. I would not recommend Macintosh hardware for this. A MacBook, be careful. Same way with security. I wouldn't use a MacBook to develop security templates because of some of the natures of how MacBook functions. And there are many out there who are in agreement with me on that. And I do agree with that. I think that by the time you realize how much cost is involved to try to get yourself to the point where you need to do stuff, MacBooks become somewhat cost prohibitive, and there are some restrictions based on its OS. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do code, it's just not cheap. Now, you could do the same thing on an Intel box or an Intel Nook, even. You don't need that much. If you're a script writer, you can get away with a Chrom-Book. And things get a little bit more interesting when you get involved into, like, for instance, InfoSec security interests, or you want to work with site to site kind of functionalities. These would require a laptop that has the ability to have cell phone interface function. In other words, you can have connectivity anywhere. Or, excuse me, you can develop a connectivity model that is the most important thing for you. And Linux would be the right kind of approach. A Linux laptop would be recommended there. Kali Linux if you're into security and audit, or Mint is also another good one with some TCP add-on tools, and it's all remote connectivity, so you don't technically need a powerful notebook. You just need a standardized notebook with about 8 gigs, maybe 16 at max. No special frills or drills with capacity. It can be a small hard drive, it can be a basic display screen. You just need connectivity. Then you get into the more robust individuals, and those are the ones who want to learn how to work with infrastructure, internal database system environments, capacity requirements, and so on. Understanding these requirements is crucial because by doing it this way, you're going to be able to provision the type of RAM resources that you want in regards to handling these larger size resources, a larger capacity hard drive, definitely a lot of memory if you can get away with it. And that can also allow you to create virtual instance tier outs of your database models or your large blob file formats or things like that. Now, if you get into data centers kind of strategies, that means the Proxmox environments, and you want to be able to generate a couple of your own Hyper-Vs, then I would say if you want ease of capacity, you want to buy a notebook that's Intel centric with Microsoft Windows 11 or 10, depending on your flavor, and use the Hyper-V functionality that comes for free with that, so you can build yourself Docker models, you can build yourself tier models, you can build yourself basically a variety of resources, get a higher processor core processor so you can set up more core resources in your Hyper-V instances. It's a fairly robust laptop or PC. Now I do a dual Xeon, and I'm able to cover 5 different aspects of the 10 industry standards. But not everybody needs to do that. And, I've got a huge amount of RAM, I've got stacks of core processors. And when you look at what I've got, it's kind of, you think overkill until you start running everything side by side and you've got like 600 little tabs on the bottom of your screen showing your active participation in what you're trying to do. Then it pays off. So, in this environment, I recommend to you to just take a little time before you do any money investments or anything like that. Write down on paper. It really does pay to sit down and just kind of design something in such a way so that it meets your needs. Now, the last part, fun. Fun doesn't mean that you need to play a game on a computer that you're using for your code or your scripting or things like that. Fun means that you enrich the features in a way so that it makes it more fun to do your work. That's important. Now, yes, if you have a more robust platform and you also want to play a game in the background, that's not solitaire. Let's say you want to play, something like I don't know, an RPG or something, a single player or something like that, which only takes a little bit of resource. But you need a really good video card. I apologize for that yawn there. So, okay, it's all right to splurge a little bit and adapt your device. So, for instance, if you're doing software coding, a larger display screen is a good and fun investment because it does make it easier for you, easier on the eyes, especially for me because I'm getting old and I have these glasses that I have to wear, to get me through the day sometimes. It's advantageous for you to take that into consideration, especially for you code writers and your script writers. If you've got a Chromebook out there or something matching that, that's great. Go for it. If you are a consoler, that means you are an individual who does console access administration. You can get away with a MacBook. You really can. Now, that's a good place for a MacBook because you don't rely on the MacBook for anything. All you're requiring is a terminal session or 20. And that allows you to be able to do your administration resources fairly cleanly. And usually these MacBooks are as thin as possible and as light as possible because you most likely are on the go when you're trying to accomplish your console administration work on your daily workloads. And with that being said, the last platform out there is more of like I have, and that is a hybrid cross between equivalency of data center like hardware, specifically like RAID controllers, Xeon processors, opposed to standard i5 or i7 processors. Those are cross hybrid machines that are probably your power stations or your heavy power user stations. And they allow you to do a grand scope of things. And I have one of those systems. And I do enjoy having a game up and running. It's not the kind of game that you play, shoot 'em up and stuff like that, but it runs in the background with its own realistic universal timetables, and it's no different than the database models or the tier structures or the Proxmox work or the VMs that I've got out there. They're all doing it side by side with each other, and they each have their own processors in the equation. And I'm able to, when I get bored, I can flip over and see what's the status of my investments in my game, or are they building things correctly, and so on and so on. It's not a constant kind of focus, but it's nice to be able to just take a break for a second and go and look at something else. this is very common with the last group of people out there, and that is the graphical designers. Graphical designers are not people who do, let's say, ray tracing or different types of motion graphics interfaces. These designers are more driven on interior design, graphical design, artistry, true high creativity. And the Microsoft Surface is a really great integrated function RAM video interface that can do this job really well. It's a rare occasion to have this feature, and most laptops aren't as adaptive as a tablet strategy is, but there is one kind of laptop that can, and that is the flip over. If you're familiar with this, it's a touchscreen just like a Microsoft Surface, and it has the same functionality as the Surface. It allows you to draw with a stylus. And none of the other qualifiers, including my Powerhouse, can do this kind of functionality because our screens are far away. You can't touch it. You can't use your hands, your eyes, your feel, and so on to do the graphical design. So I would recommend in that case, because you've written this out, you clearly understand what you want to do, that you are able to present your resource on a tablet Surface kind of strategy, and that would really work well with graphical designing and so on. Now, as that being one of the last ones to look at, there is also CGI to consider as well for all of you heavy-duty CGIers, and you really don't qualify because your CPU requirements, your RAM requirements, your interconnectivity within your local site with your local storage resources, as well as your remote resources and all the other things that are involved with CGI, you have a lot more overhead that you need to consider, and that's more of a technical review opposed to simply writing down a wish list. So just skip this process and go straight to the technical if you do that kind of work for like game design and so on, because those systems are highly complex and they're based on the application that does the work, not by the availability of the hardware. So with that being said, I thought I would take this a little bit of time here today and talk about the pick list of what do you need to get where you need to be when it comes to that system, that computer system that you think is the best fit for you based on what you need to do. Again, I say at the end, take the time, write out on paper what you really want, what you like to play with, what's important, and so on and so on. Prioritize them, and then you use that to dictate your requirements for things like RAM, GPU performances for better video performances, capacity for your storage needs, processing power if you need to do other adaptive things that require more resources or less resources. Put them on paper first, and then that will get you where you need to be. Well, this is Brad Dyke signing off. I hope this is a little bit of help here. It's kind of hard sometimes when you're at home and you decide you want to buy a PC, and then you realize, what am I going to do with it? Too many people buy stuff the wrong way, and it just sits around in their houses, if you know what I mean. It never gets really used, and it just is wasted money. So take the time, invest in yourself and what you want, and then buy what you need. You guys take care, and I'll let you go. Bye-bye.